you know, what you really need to focus on between the age of 20 to 30 is what value you can add in the market. Choose one skill that you understand will be truly valuable in pretty much any market you go into, and focus on developing that skill. When you're 18 and you know you're wearing a suit to work, and then you step off the train and you look at the big city, you feel like a boss, you feel like Harvey Specter or something.
Like a full grown up, no?
Yeah. But what I really found was the value was everything and everyone is in London.
Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of Voices of Hult. We are here back in the London campus after a long and deserving break. I'm back here with Larissa.
Hello guys, I'm Larissa. It's good to be back.
I'm very also excited to be having a special guest here today. Before, we've done a lot of professors and from the postgraduate but also undergraduate campus, and we thought we would change things up a little bit and make it a little bit more personal and open the doors to the insides of Hult undergrad and the people that make Hult Hult. So today we've invited the president of Hult Founders Lab and also fellow Hult student, Emil. How are you?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. Would you like to explain to our listeners a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how long you've been at Hult, and why Hult?
Yeah, of course. So, where I'm from, I think I'm one of the only students in Hult who's actually from London, on the London campus.
True.
Yeah, there's not many of us, I've been at Hult, for 3 years now. I'm about to graduate in my final year.
Nice.
Originally, I had no ambition of going to university whatsoever. I wanted to chill. I wanted to be in my house. And, I was working in sales. And every single day, my mum would say, when are you going to university? And at some point, it started to piss me off a little bit. No. So I decided, you know what, let me just look into it.
Yeah.
Right? So I went on Google, I typed in best business schools in London, and Hult popped up. And then I filled out the application. I didn't submit it then, but then I got a call the next day from the enrollment team. And from there, the woman completely sold me on Hult. It was everything I was looking for in a university, and it took away everything I didn't want in a university. Mm-hmm. So that's how I ended up here.
Wow. And that's so interesting. Wait, so you went from high school straight into sales?
Straight into sales, yeah.
How does that work? I'm very curious.
Well, pretty much in COVID. So my last year of high school was just before COVID. Oh. So my second to last year was just after COVID, sorry. So my second to last year was during COVID. So in that second to last year, I had absolutely nothing to do for about 8 months. So I decided to start a business.
Wow.
And I was starting the business. I was doing okay, but I realized I was absolutely horrible at sales. Okay. So I just decided as soon as I graduate, I want to learn how to sell, because if I want to be successful in business in the future, that's a key skill I'm going to need. Mm-hmm. So in my last year of high school, I used that experience that I had. I started my own business. I put that on my CV, and I just sent it out to every sales company I could find. And I got hired. So the day I finished high school, the next day I started in the company.
Nice. And you told us that you started a business. What was it about, and how did you get the idea for it?
Yeah. So the business was a social media marketing agency.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
very, very complex for a high school student, I would feel like.
Well, to be honest, it wasn't my idea.
Oh.
The way this came about was I was 16. And I wanted some money to take a girl on a date, because I didn't want to ask my parents for the money. Okay. So I got my first job. And whilst doing this job, I very quickly realized that I need to make money myself. I want to make a lot more money than I was doing at this job. I was getting £5 an hour working 8 hours a week, so £40 a week. Yeah. And then I decided to start applying for other jobs. Every single job I went to said, what experience did you have? I was 16, I'd never worked, so I said none. And they said, okay, apply somewhere else. And one day, I just came home, and I was speaking to a friend of mine, and they said, why don't you try making money online? And I said, that sounds cool. I went on YouTube, I typed in ways to make money online, and I came across this business model. And I thought, this sounds nice, so let me see what I can do with this.
That sounds really cool. And I think that brings us to Hult Founders Lab. Could you explain us what it is, what the society is?
Of course. So the Hult Founders Lab is actually one of the reasons I joined Hult in the first place. That's one of the things the enrollment advisor said to me on the call, because the reason I didn't want to go to university is because I wanted to work on a business. And she said, hey, if you come to Hult, we actually have an incubator within our university where you have access to all our top professors, their network of professionals. You can network with other entrepreneurs within the Founders Lab. It's essentially a society for people to build and develop entrepreneurial skills whilst you're a student. So as soon as you graduate, you can actually you're in a good position to launch your business. You could sell your business to another company. Maybe you've developed a partnership. Maybe you have a family business and you can build another wing of that family business. But it's a great place to learn and develop entrepreneurial skills.
Wow. And how was your journey with it? Because I'm sure from point one to becoming president, there's like a lot of steps in between.
Yeah. So when I initially joined Hult, I think my expectations for the Founders Lab were very high, and I went to the initial boot camp. When I went to the boot camp in the Hult Founders Lab, I was actually with a lot of people from our year. We were all very excited, and we had a great time at the boot camp. You know, we were with our professors Daniel and Liliana. We developed our business ideas. We did a nice pitch at the end of it, which was really nice. But after that, I feel like it kind of dropped off from there. Like the sessions didn't provide me with enough value as I thought I was going to get. So I decided to kind of stop away from the Founders Lab and go about just doing my own thing. So for the next year or so, I was just working on business on my own. And if I needed any advice, I'd go to professors like Daniel and Liliana individually, or just other people I knew who had their own businesses going on at the time as well. And then around last year, actually, May last year, I was chilling and I got an email from Liliana saying, hey, we want to rebuild the Hult Founders Lab. Would you be interested in this? And for me, I felt like that was an amazing opportunity for me to kind of give people the experience I wanted when I started in Hult. Because I had learned a lot about entrepreneurship. I knew what was necessary for people to have a great experience from the Founders Lab. So, you know, we had some conversations, and from there, Liliana and Daniel decided that I would be a good fit for president. So that's how I got into the president role.
That's really interesting. How do you feel like HFL stands out from the other societies at Hult? Because we have plenty of societies for everyone, but what do you think that makes HFL special?
Well, I'd say for me, the number one thing is the network you develop whilst being an HFL. Because all these other societies, they're great societies and they're all built around people's interests. Like MUN, people like public speaking, they like debating. You know, TEDx, again, people who like public speaking. So it's great. The thing about Hult Founders Lab is we all have a common interest in business, but business itself is so diverse. So we meet people who are very, very highly experienced in tech. We have people who know real estate. We have people who know logistics, you know, or we have people who have connections to these people. So as you're building and developing yourself throughout your time in Hult, you'll develop this network of people in so many different spaces. And if you just come across something that could use somebody's skill set, you say, hey, look, I know you're good at this. Maybe you can work with me on this. And I think that's one of the things that definitely stands out.
Yeah, that's Hult Founders Lab. When I first came to Hult, it's one of the societies that for me seemed the most developed.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like a little bit shocked that you had that first reaction to it. I never became part of it because I really didn't enter Hult with a business idea. I think I took a traditional route of right after high school, I had to go to uni and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I thought business very broad, I can kind of expand and learn here and there. And then for master's, I'll like specify in something. And yeah, so I was always super curious on how the Hult Founders Lab worked at the beginning. Yeah. And what do you think you've changed or with your team, you've developed Hult Founders Lab to be completely different from the beginning, or how you saw it, or more or less, how do you think it's working now compared to before?
Yeah, so what I'd say is in the beginning, they definitely had a lot of good points. I'd say the main thing that I was lacking in the beginning is a lot of the sessions felt like entrepreneurship classes where we'd just keep saying the same faces over and over again, and it didn't necessarily give us an opportunity to go outside of our ecosystem of Hult. What we really focused on this year is increasing the engagement. So we want to bring in people who nobody's seen before, people from outside of Hult who want to collaborate with other societies. So earlier we had our boots camp in November time, and we partnered with Allegiant Club, which is another huge accelerator in London. So we started off in Hult, and then we took everyone over to Westminster Business School, where they could have that session and see what the actual entrepreneurship society within London as a whole is. Another thing we're really focusing on is, as I said, network. I feel like network is the most valuable thing here. So what we're doing is we're building each of these sessions just around general things people would be interested in business, but just so they can meet people from this space and they can actually have a conversation with them after. Like we had one great session a while back with a guy named Matt Black, who's built many companies, invested in many companies. And after the session, he just invited a couple of us, said, hey, do you want to go out for dinner? And we had like a dinner with him, 6 of us. And it was a great way to just meet and network and build a relationship with him.
Wow. And when it comes to, for example, you came to Hult for Hult Founders Lab. Well, that was one of the things that brought you into Hult. What about when it comes to specializations? What have you found to be the biggest takeaways from them? Which ones did you like? Because you've taken different types of specializations.
I've taken, so many different specializations.
How do you think they work together? But also, which one did you enjoy the most or you got the most out of?
Okay. So I think my whole life, most of the things I've learned, especially in school, have not been necessarily from my lessons. I think any technical information I needed to learn, whether it was for a maths test, a physics test, a chemistry test, I could read a textbook, I could, watch it on YouTube. But the most value I got from my lessons were, again, the people I was around. So the kind of professors I had in the lessons, the kind of students who were in these classes, maybe guest speakers that they brought in. So my strategy when I came to Hult was, as I said, I didn't necessarily have an interest in going to university. But what I found is being in Hult, all of these people want to work in some aspect of the business environment. So my strategy was, let me see how I can best understand people. So I decided to do the management module, because that's all around dealing with people, managing projects and managing people in that way. I did psychology as well, for obvious reasons. Mm-hmm. And I also did entrepreneurship, just because I have an interest in entrepreneurship. But another thing I chose for all of these specializations was also the professors. Like in management, we have Georgia, who's a very experienced guy, and I really like the way he thinks. So I wanted to be more around people like that. In entrepreneurship, we have Daniel, we have Liliana, we have Satrupa, we have many entrepreneurship professors. Same in psychology, we have Max, we actually had a professor from UCL come in named Vince, who taught us all about neuroscience and things like that, which was really interesting. Yeah.
I think it's a range of topics that you can find anything that you would ever wish to work with when you're part of HFL. And after spending 4 years at Hult and being faced with graduation now in August, what are your future plans? I know it's a lot of pressure when we ask this, but what do you see your future after HFL looking like?
If you had asked me this like 3 months ago, I would have said, leave me alone. I don't want to answer this question.
I feel you on that.
Me too.
I don't want to answer this question. Yeah. Now, it's not like I have my exact future mapped out, but I was speaking to a guy earlier, and he told me this thing about, what you really need to focus on between the age of 20 to 30 is what value you can add in the market. Choose one skill that you understand will be truly valuable in pretty much any market you go into, and focus on developing that skill. And along the way, you're going to meet people. And for me, the 2 skills I chose actually was, one is sales and one is leadership development, because I believe any company needs sales. It needs people who can sell their product. But also leadership development means I can replace myself. So if I'm a top sales guy, it's not beneficial for the company to just have one of me. But if I can then develop other people into top salespeople, then that's important for the company. Yeah. But now if I can develop each of these people to be people who can develop top salespeople, then my value just keeps increasing and increasing and increasing. Right, so for me, my plan as soon as I graduate is working as sales, because I want to develop that skill. But the main thing is also about the people who I'm around. I want to be in a company where I can learn from the CEO and see how he thinks and how he interacts with people.
And would this be learning from different companies and like their environment, and then later on focusing back on your business or starting something new? Yeah,
so it kind of ties into my business, because when I think about value, when I think about business in general, I think about building a business around a client. So instead of just sitting in my room thinking, this would be a good business idea, I rather speak to people and try to understand their problems. If I can be in this industry and I can understand the problems of different people within this industry, I can then build a business around that. Right now, I have the idea of sales consulting, because I know a lot of new startups, they have issues building their sales teams. Yeah. So that's one thing I can help them solve. But yeah, that's my aim.
That's really cool. And do you plan on staying in London, or?
Well,
it's a typical question.
Typical question at Hult.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, I've been in London my whole life.
Yeah.
And with that has come with not being able to speak any other languages, just English. when you're a native English speaker, you never really feel the need to speak another language because everyone speaks English. But what I'd like to do is, once I graduate, I'd like to move to Spain and be there for a bit just so I can learn Spanish.
That's amazing.
What part of Spain?
Well, I'm actually going to Valencia in a couple of weeks to see what that's like. I'm thinking Valencia, maybe Barcelona. I hear good things about Madrid as well, so we'll see.
Love Madrid.
Yeah, everyone loves Madrid.
Everyone loves Madrid. It's becoming such a hub spot also for a lot of finance companies. I've seen a lot of people going to finance are going to Madrid.
And a lot of Hult students as well, because I feel like everyone I talk to, they're going to Madrid after graduation.
Yeah, I've heard very good things about Madrid.
Yeah. Malaga is a hub spot for tech companies and startups in Spain. Yeah, so I would recommend you check it out as well. It's also in the south of Spain, so it's nice and warm and sunny all year round. I love Madrid, but it does get cold.
Does it? Colder than London?
No. We're talking like...
C'est la vie then. You know?
The lowest is like 10, but...
that's nothing.
I'm from the Canary Islands. That for me.
No, I understand. Canary Islands, Miami. your bar is here. London, everything is. Anything better than this is.
For me, anything is cold. I'm from Brazil. So
Which part of Brazil?
I'm from Brasilia, the capital.
Ah, nice. You're the first Brazilian I've met.
Really?
Not Brazilian, but Brasilia. From Brasilia.
Yeah, that's very nice. We have another person here from Brasilia as well, but I think she finished classes in December.
Wow.
No, everyone I meet here is from Sao Paulo.
Yeah, that is
literally
true.
everyone.
São Paulo or Rio.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, going back to, I guess, London and business, I feel like, I don't know if you guys had this impact, but when it comes to studying business, especially being a business student and an entrepreneur such as yourself, studying business in like a big city where you have so many contacts and people to network with does impact you a lot in what you learn inside and outside the classroom.
Yeah.
How do you think London has impacted you? I mean, you've been living here your entire life, but I feel like going to uni in London is very different from your high school experience.
Yeah, definitely. In high school, I was not in the main city. Like people who, families in London are usually in the suburbs. So where I was very chill, c'est la vie. And then I got the first sales job, which actually made me have to come like right to the city. I was working in Waterloo at the time.
Nice.
And literally when you're 18 and you're wearing a suit to work and then you step off the train and you look at the big city, you feel like a boss, you feel like Harvey Specter or something.
Like a full grown up, no?
Yeah. But when I came into like the city, just looking around at the city, like if you're not from a major city, you haven't spent much time in a major city, looking around already gives you inspiration. Like you look at some buildings and you think some guy's office is at the top. You look at another building, there's apartments, people are living in great places. So it really increases your expectations. But what I really found was the value was everything and everyone is in London. Funnily enough, with Hult, I worked in 2 sales jobs. I worked in one doing just regular sales, the other one was recruitment. In both jobs, I met somebody who went from Hult in my application process.
Wow.
Like when I was first applying to Hult, I had never heard of it. The next week, I met somebody who went to Hult, and then I left that job. I went to another job in recruitment, and one of the guys I was working with also went to Hult.
That's very nice.
And I think in London, you find people in literally everything. And as I said, it gives you that flexibility.
And how, like, looking back at it, how impactful, because I'm about to also graduate in a couple weeks, and I'm starting my first job, and, I'm kind of seeing it as like I'm going to be a 20-year-old going into an office with a bunch of 30, 40-year-olds, people with much more experience than me, also in a different age bracket as me. And I'm scared, but I can't imagine you at 18 years old going to an office and being surrounded by so many very, what's the word? Not only older people, but also more experienced people. Yeah. How did that feel like? How did that impact you?
Well, it's quite funny. Because what you have to understand is when you're 18 and you're around people in like their 30s and 40s, in life you have very different problems. Yeah. So sometimes I try to speak to my colleagues after work, and he's telling me about his kids and he's trying to find school and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, man. It's like, what are you doing this week? And going to the club, But I think when you're around those people who are much older than you and much more experienced than you, it gives you an opportunity to think, oh, I like the way this guy runs this part of his life, or this lady runs that part of her life. Maybe I can model this part of my life, So I look for attributes in all these different people that I would like to have. Like I had one boss who was a great, amazing negotiator. So I was like, oh, I like the way he does this. Maybe I can learn from him and just ask questions.
Yeah.
I think when the older people, they kind of get protective over you when you're younger. You know, they want to help you. They want to see you do well. They kind of look at you like a younger sibling. So they're always
I think
open.
because they've been in your position as well, and they kind of wished someone did this to them.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's really nice. And what do you think was the most valuable experience that you had before coming to uni working in sales?
Working in sales specifically?
Yeah, in sales or even like any other professional path.
In sales, well, this has been the case throughout anything I've done professionally, but it's learning to drop your ego.
No.
I think working in business, like trying business when I first started my business when I was 17, it was the first thing in life that I actually really, really tried hard at and I was bad at, which really, really hurt my ego, you know, because usually in school it's like, oh, I'm not good at that, I'm not going to try that. Or, oh, I'm going to stick to this because this fuels my ego. Yeah. But when you work in business and you haven't done anything in your life, you're bad at literally everything, even the things that you think you're good at. So it's just learning to drop your ego and learn from other people. Amazing. And just try new things out.
So bringing back to what you said, that when you're a 16-year-old looking at the big city with a suit, what advice would you give to someone that has just come to London, like just arrived, it's starting today? What would you say to them?
Don't let the city overwhelm you. I think the main thing with London is there's literally a place for everyone. Whether you're black, you're white, Latino, Asian, anything you are, you can find a community within London. And that's one of the things I love in London so much, that there's so much diversity. So if you come from maybe a smaller part of town and you come into the big city, it can easily overwhelm you. But very easily, you'll start to find your community, or you can branch into other communities as well. Yeah. You know, you'll meet a guy who knows this or something like that. And you have to understand, for the people who live in London, this is normal for them. You know, this is where life is. So they're happy to meet new people. They're always happy to talk to new people. Maybe don't catch them when they're on the train because no one's in a good mood then. But in day-to-day life, people in London are actually very friendly. Loads of opportunities as well.
Maybe try different hobbies and be open to new opportunities.
Yeah, like how was your experience coming into London?
Well, for me, it was very overwhelming. I had never lived anywhere before Brasilia. And, well, being away from home, like in the other side of the globe, it was a bit overwhelming. And then when I came to London, my first year, I was a bit intimidated with the city. I would never do anything alone. And I would always rely on friends to, like, come out with me and try new things. But then I started kind of getting used to the pace of the city, and then you get familiar with the tube, and then you know how to walk around without city mapper. So I think I started like growing with the city, but it took a bit of time and a lot of patience.
And you, Lucia, I knew you came from like Miami, which is a big city as well.
You know the thing about Miami, and I've talked about this a lot, Miami is not a city. It is, but you have Brickell in downtown, and the size of Brickell downtown, to give you perspective, is like the size of Aldgate. It's very small. And like it's a fairly new developed city. Everyone's moving there. Everyone started moving there around COVID, like after COVID, 2021, 2022. That's when there was the boom of everyone coming from the north of the US down to Miami because there's less taxes, there's no in-state tax, the weather's better, and after COVID everyone's working remotely. So people could come from their New York jobs that were getting really high salaries and move down to Miami, which they weren't. The expense of living in the city wasn't that high at the time, and you can get sun all year round. So it makes sense, but it's so spread out. I used to live in Key Biscayne, which is like a tiny little island like in front of downtown Miami, and we just drove golf carts all day. I spent my morning driving golf cart to school, then walking the dogs in the golf cart. Not in the golf cart, but I would drive the dogs in the golf cart because I used to walk dogs after school. And then I would play tennis in the island as well. And then I would go kayaking and swimming in the water. So for me, it never felt like I lived in a city. And the minute I came to London, the first year I found it really hard just because I wasn't adjusted to the weather. Winter blues are a thing, and I didn't know that they were a thing. Personally, didn't know they were a thing. I realized that I wouldn't see the sun 2 weeks in a row, and that was like, whoa, what's going on here? And also, I think the people, the environment, because Miami's Latin America. It's all Latin America 2.0. So I'm used to speaking a lot in Spanish, hearing a lot of reggaeton, a lot of loud and obnoxious people. And the British are very kind and they're very slow and they're very like...
They're very polite.
They're
Like,
very polite.
you're going to see the two packed and one chair left. And
Yeah.
no one's going to take the chair because they're very, very polite.
Exactly.
That
Or like
doesn't
they'll
happen in
ask
Brazil.
you, or you have to like double look at people before you sit down, like to see like, do I sit, do you sit, like, you know? So it was very much like a culture change. And then I think my second year at Hult, I started to embrace it and I really loved it. Though, I mean, I can't say that the clouds don't annoy me, but
It is what it is.
but I'm used to it, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
there's days where if I don't check my friends' stories back in Miami of them at the beach, it doesn't affect me, you know? It's when I get reminded that there's another side.
So you
I
just
feel
forget,
it.
forget about the other
If
side.
you ignore the fact that, like, Spain is a thing,
Okay. No
you're
Spain.
like, no Spain. Everything's good, everything's fine,
Yeah.
you know? I generally enjoy it. And also, I mean, I'm moving out of London in 2 months, so I'm already in like this feeling of I'm gonna miss it already, being sad about leaving without leaving yet, and I'm like already done everything that I wanted to do that I haven't done yet. But generally, like I would not change it for the world.
Would you ever consider coming back?
I've thought about it, and yes, I would consider coming back, but I don't think it would be long term again. I think it would be for another 2 to 3 years to grow myself professionally again.
Fair enough.
Or maybe even start my company here and then maybe eventually go back to the US, or because unless things get better financially and economically in Spain, I don't think it's like a great place right now for me to start my company or to work long time. But
What company are you thinking of starting?
I've always been such a big advocate for sustainable fashion, and I'm like, I love it. I love reading about it. I love researching about it.
Really good book.
Oh my, we found this amazing. We
sustainable
went to
fashion.
Copenhagen. Yeah, it's called Where Next by Clear Press. And it's the best, most insightful book about sustainable fashion, the whole industry as a whole, and how it affects everything. It affects every single other industry, and the manufacturing that goes into it, and also like the labor laws in all these third world countries, and how bad everything's set up.
And it was funny because we were traveling and we were talking about sustainable fashion all the time. And we got into a design museum, and we found this book, and we were like, yeah, we're reading about it.
Yeah. And I have
it
every
worked out.
single page highlighted in that book, and I generally like I think that's going to be the backbone of my entire business
Sustainable
idea.
fashion.
Something I don't want to go specific into sustainable fashion, but I want to build something that helps the process of manufacturing of sustainable fashion. Maybe something that helps with the recycling of it, or maybe that eases because right now, for example, for your pants, your zipper was probably made in India. Your button was probably made in Cambodia. Then the stitching of your pants was probably made in Sri Lanka. Like everything's made in a different place. So for your pants to be made, you have to go through like 20 different manufacturing. And not only is that costly, the CO2 emissions are crazy because you're flying all the time.
Yeah.
And then also the child labor laws and like the women's rights are
of
just
course.
really not at its best right now. So maybe something that eases the manufacturing process, maybe so you can make it more locally, and then I don't know. I have to figure it out. It's still in the works.
I look forward to seeing that.
Thank
and you,
you.
Larissa, do you have a business or any entrepreneurial ambitions?
So entrepreneurial ambitions, just my family business from back home. We have a skincare business called Silver Care.
Nice.
It's very new. It's very like a baby company, but I love working with that. But I think after uni, I want to do my own thing, and I want to go into film. I really like film.
That's a nice one.
Yeah.
It's a very big shift.
Yeah, it's a very big shift because I like the business side of it. So production, distribution, and everything. So there's a master's here in London Film School called Film and International Business, and I'm really looking forward
So
to
that's
that.
where you're looking to go next.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot about it, and I've been talking to the people that are already in the industry. And the more I talk about it, the more I reflect on it, and the more I'm sure of.
And do you want to be like a director, producer?
I would love to be a producer or a director. I don't know. I also love. My heart is also goes a bit to screenwriting, but it's a bit more difficult. So.
My mom actually wrote a movie once.
Really?
Yeah.
What about? That's so nice.
I mean, I couldn't tell you what it is, but back in Ghana, she wrote the script for a movie.
Aww.
That's super nice.
Well, and to finish off the episode, I have one last question to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
What's a fun fact about you that most people at Hult don't know?
Well, I actually, before I went into the path of business, I actually wanted to be a pilot.
Wow.
So when I was much younger, like 14, 15, I did a lot of flying. So I learned how to fly plane. I can do loops. I can do barrel rolls. I can I can do whatever.
That is
You know?
so unexpected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna pull out something like a trick that you can do, or
No. I found any
That
trick.
is definitely
I guess
a
that
trick.
is a trick.
Oh,
Yeah, yes, that is a
I've
trick.
never lost thumb wall.
Oh,
Really?
wow.
No, never.
No, after the episode, we have to
Yeah.
try because I've never lost a tumbler. Yeah.
Then a first for one of you
Yeah.
today. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank
as well
you for
having me.
taking the time to be here. I know it took a little bit of planning to be here. And thank you also for joining us today,
Of
Larissa,
course.
again.
It's a pleasure.
And yeah, thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we'll see you guys next.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.